Hey peeps, so today we're going to be talking about autoimmune disease. And autoimmune disease is when, because of one trigger and a genetic predisposition, your immune system got so reactive that it got out of control and it started attacking your own cells. And it can come in many forms. If it attacks your pancreas, you get diabetes. If it affects your thyroid, you get Hashimoto's. If it attacks your joints, you get rheumatoid arthritis, and so on and so forth, right? It's important to note that a person that has autoimmune disease has a very big chance of developing another autoimmune disease because of this high reactivity that their system is on. But it is also important to note that it is completely possible to achieve remission with diet and lifestyle and supplementation. It's very rigorous, but it's perfectly possible, okay? And we're gonna go through, first of all, the triggers. What are things that trigger autoimmune disease? So there are many triggers, but the most common are, first of all, leaky gut. And leaky gut is when those particles that are not supposed to be seen by your blood, and thus your immune system, start penetrating your gut because it's leaky, because it is all damaged from diet, from excessive stress, from medicines, certain medications. It makes your gut kind of open up, and then these particles that were not supposed to be presented to your immune cells now are, and your immune cells are saying, no, this is different, I'm going to attack it. And so it activates a response. So not only particles of your food, undigested food that come into your blood, but also mycotoxins, bacteria, little particles, LPS, which is a toxin released by gram-negative bacteria that should not be in your blood and sometimes is. Second trigger is gluten. So gluten will trigger autoimmune disease in three forms. One, because it causes leaky gut. Every time we eat gluten, we release a substance, and this is for everybody. It's not just for celiacs, everybody. We release a substance called zonulin. Zonulin makes the tight junctions open. So the tight junctions are those little buttons that keep your intestinal cells all glued together. Well, when you have zonulin, that opens up and then particles start leaking into the blood. Gluten also heightens inflammation because it's a very inflammatory food, and it has molecular mimicry, especially with thyroid tissue. So the protein in gluten is similar to the protein in your thyroid, and so your body reacts to gluten, but it also reacts to your thyroid. That's why many celiac people also develop Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is an autoimmune disease of the thyroid, because of that molecular mimicry. Third trigger is toxin exposure. So toxins, especially mycotoxins that come from fungus, so mold, and heavy metals, especially mercury, but other heavy metals as well. These are triggers for developing autoimmune disease, because these things make you inflamed, and inflammation is a trigger from leaky gut, from gluten, from toxins, from infections, which is the fourth trigger I'm going to be talking about. So inflammation is really the root cause of autoimmune. So like I said, infections, especially Epstein-Barr virus that gives you mono, herpes simplex virus 1 and 2, and E. coli are linked to triggering your immune system too much. Any other infections that are very, very severe, sometimes people with Lyme disease get autoimmune disease, and other kinds of infections, dengue fever, other things. Stress and trauma. So when the stress is very big, or when the trauma is very huge, and your body is in like so much shock that your immune system gets crazy and out of whack, you can develop autoimmune disease because of that as well. But also, chronic low-grade stress of our daily stress that you don't manage can cause autoimmune disease, because not much cause, more like keep it going. Sometimes you're in remission, you're doing your diet super correctly, and you're taking your meds, and you're not having symptoms. Then you have stresses, and you're not managing it well, you're not sleeping well, then maybe your symptoms can flare up. So what can you do? First of all, you want to identify food sensitivities, because when you have a food sensitivity, And I'm not talking about food allergy here. I'm talking about food sensitivity. Food sensitivities cause leaky gut and inflammation, and these both trigger and mediate autoimmune disease. So the gold standard for you to identify food sensitivities is the elimination diet for at least 6 weeks. 8 weeks would be better. And then you would reintroduce one food at a time to see if your symptoms kind of come back or not. And then you will identify which foods you are sensitive to. What are the foods that you want to eliminate during this period? And this is not forever, and there are foods here that are very healthy for you. They're just very triggering as well. So you want to remove those with the idea that you will eventually be able to maybe reintroduce them. Some of them you have to take out forever. Grains, all legumes. And I want to give not a shout out, but make an observation here that peanut is not only a legume, and you would have to eliminate it because of that, but also it has a lot of aflatoxin, which is a mycotoxin, and you have to eliminate those. All the nightshades because of the alkaloids in them. So nightshades are the white potatoes, eggplant, tomatoes, the chili, and the peppers. No gluten, definitely no gluten. No dairy of any kind. No lectin, and this is not reduce, okay? Reduce does not do anything. You have to completely eliminate because you want the antibodies, the reactive immune cells, to be cleared from your body, and their half-life is around 23 days, and you have to completely eliminate, because if you have a little sip of milk, it's still triggering your immune system, okay? So you want to remove eggs as well. Eggs is super nutritious, but it triggers a lot of people. So remove eggs, remove soy, alcohol, coffee, and processed foods. So when I say processed foods, it's everything that is packaged. So refined flours, refined sugars, and all that. Then what are you going to eat? You're going to eat all the roots. So it's very similar to the detox diet that I gave you guys. All the roots, all the veggies, that are not nightshades, all of them, all the fruits, all of the meats, plenty of spices and all that I already talked to you always about. So it's paleo-ish, okay, with a little bit more restriction because you're removing some of the foods that are a little triggering. So I forgot, I lost my train of thought. Oh, okay. So then second step, so first you're going to try do this to identify your food sensitivities. Then you're going to test your body for mycotoxins and heavy metals, and you can do that through lab tests. You want to remove your exposure to these agents, so remove the exposure to foods that you're sensitive through the elimination diet. Remove your exposure to mold, so investigate your house, investigate, other places that you go, your work. Remove the exposure, get a good air filter, get a good water filter so you're not getting exposed to heavy metals and toxins from the water. If you have amalgams, you're having mercury inside your mouth, you want to go to a biologic dentist. Biologic is the key word here, and get them removed safely. You want to change your personal health care products to those that don't contain as many toxins. You want to change your cookware and all that. You want to manage your stress. Definitely manage your stress, because stress is a driver. It's a mediator. It can be a trigger, but it's also a mediator. It keeps your disease going. So managing your stress, getting adequate sleep, having a good lifestyle of sun exposure, exercise, taking some supplements such as probiotics, omega-3, vitamin D, vitamin K. It's important to note here that vitamin K is very important for myelin formation. So myelin sheath is that protective coating around the nerves that the people with MS lose. So very important to have a lot of green leafy vegetables that have a lot of K1 in them. And also take some K2 and that you have to get from supplements for the vitamin D. Very, very necessary for people with autoimmune disease to get their levels of vitamin D tested, and they have to be higher than people that don't have that, so above 80, even 100, depending on how bad it is, even more than that, and you have to have a doctor to follow you on that. And another thing that's very interesting is that the opioids, or natural opioids, they modulate your immune system, meaning it puts your immune system in balance. And what are things that in the opioids, our endogenous opioids are endorphins. What are things that release those things? Cold exposure, high intensity HIIT exercise, high intensity interval training, sleep, sun exposure, releases endorphins, social interaction. And here I want to make a note. When a person has an autoimmune disease and it's very flared up, they're in pain, they're depressed, and they're just not in a good place, and they tend to isolate because sometimes they have so many restrictions of movement, of diet, of, just life. So they tend to isolate, and it's no bueno. When you have to force yourself to have social interactions, because this helps with stress. It helps modulate your immune system through these endorphins, okay? You want to get massages, you want to do self-care, acupuncture, and stuff like that. You want to feel good. You want to choose things that make you feel good and that take care of yourself and your body. So my final note here is for you to look up the Wall support protocol. So Terry Wall is a doctor that has MS, and she is in remission now, but she got to the point that she was in a wheelchair. She was not holding her head upright. She couldn't hold a pen. She was having difficulty with speech and all, and through diet and lifestyle and supplementation, so meditation, exercise, and a very, very strict diet with 9 cups of vegetables a day. So that's her main thing, is 9 cups of vegetables a day, preferably organic, and she eats a lot of organ meats. They're very nutritious if you can down them. Definitely have organic organ meats, because the organs, especially the liver, is where the animal is processing all the junk that it's fed. So you do not want to have conventional organ meats. Better not to have them. Bone broth and all that. So that is one protocol that if you want to look up, it's very interesting. She has a TED Talk. She has a bunch of YouTube videos if you want to take a look at that.